It all began when I moved into a small, quiet apartment on the edge of town. After years of bouncing between places, I finally found what seemed like a peaceful little haven. One bedroom, close to work, affordable, and best of all, pet-friendly. I wasn't alone. My cat, Shadow, came with me. A sleek, black cat with piercing green eyes that somehow seemed to see right through you. The apartment was cozy, but there was one feature that stood out: an old wooden closet in the bedroom. At first glance, it looked like any other closet, just a space for coats and storage. But the moment I stepped inside that room, there was an uneasy feeling in the air, like the room held a secret. I could never quite explain it. Maybe it was the faint, musty smell that lingered, or the cold draft that sometimes seeped from under the closet door. Shadow noticed it too. Almost every day he would pause his usual routine, fix his eyes on the closet door, and stare. Not just a passing glance, but an intense, unblinking gaze, as if he expected something, or someone, to appear. His tail would twitch nervously, ears flatten, a low growl rumbling from deep in his throat. At first, I dismissed it as typical cat behavior. But then, things started happening. Strange things. One late afternoon, I returned home early from work. Shadow was sitting motionless in front of the closet, eyes wide, locked onto the door like it held the answers to some terrible mystery. I called to him softly, but he didn't move. Then I heard it. A faint noise, like whispering, maybe soft breathing, coming from behind the door. My heart pounded as I slowly reached out and opened the closet. Inside were a few coats, old boxes, nothing unusual, except for fresh scratch marks on the walls. The kind that looked like desperate attempts to claw through. The night was worse. I barely slept. Shadow refused to leave the closet side, hissing at the door whenever I moved away. At midnight, faint tapping sounds echoed in the silence, like fingernails gently knocking from inside. I shone a flashlight in, but saw nothing. Only cold darkness. Days later, I asked the landlord about the apartment's history. He hesitated, then told me the story of a woman who lived there years ago, a tenant who disappeared without a trace. The police searched everywhere, including the closet, but found no sign of her. Neighbors whispered of strange noises and flickering lights late at night, but no one dared to investigate further. Shadow's behavior grew more intense. Sometimes he hissed and scratched at the floor. I began feeling watched, as if the apartment shared its space with a presence I could not see. One evening, as I read in bed, I heard muffled sobbing from the closet. Shadow jumped up and pawed at the door violently. I felt a mix of terror and compassion. Trying to comfort whatever was trapped, I whispered promises of help. The crying grew louder, desperate, heart-wrenching. The next day, I called the police again. They found nothing. The closet was empty, but the air felt heavier, filled with sorrow. One officer paused before leaving and said quietly, "Some places hold memories. Some things aren't meant to be found." Shadow never left the closet after that. I placed a bowl of water and toys nearby, small gestures to comfort an invisible captive. At night, I hear soft breathing, the faintest of whispers, a presence still lingering. I don't know if the woman's spirit remains or if something else dwells there, but Shadow knows. Cats see what we cannot. This story is not just about a cat's strange behavior. It's about the unseen, the mysteries hidden in the silence and shadows. What lurks beyond our understanding may not be evil, but it is certainly there. If you've ever had a pet react to something you couldn't see, a stare, A growl, a hiss at an empty room. You understand the thin veil between our world and something else. Shadow taught me that lesson. And sometimes, when the night is still and quiet, I swear I can hear the woman's voice pleading from behind that closet door. And now, I am forced to leave this apartment. I moved into an old apartment complex on the edge of town about 3 months ago. It was the kind of place with history. Wooden floors that creaked underfoot, faded wallpaper peeling in the corners, and a quiet neighborhood where everyone knew each other, but no one talked about the past. I brought my black cat Luna with me. She's always been more than just a pet. She has this uncanny ability to sense things before I even notice them. I chalked it up to cat intuition until the first night in the apartment. That evening, Luna kept staring at the small wooden door at the end of the living room. It was slightly cracked open, and no matter what I did, she wouldn't leave it alone. Her tail puffed, ears flat. A cat's version of warning signals. She hissed softly when I tried to distract her. I was curious and a little unnerved. I went over and pushed the door open fully. It led to a tiny storage room, cluttered with old boxes, dusty furniture, and the faint smell of damp wood. Nothing unusual, but Luna darted inside and immediately froze, her eyes locked on the far wall. That's when I noticed it. The wallpaper on that wall was bubbled and torn. I peeled it back slowly, heart pounding. Underneath, there were strange carvings etched into the wood. Intricate, looping patterns that didn't look modern at all. Some kind of symbols, maybe protective marks or warnings. That night, I couldn't sleep. Luna stayed by my side, occasionally jumping and staring at the door, as if expecting something. I kept replaying the images of those symbols in my head. What did they mean? Why were they hidden behind wallpaper? The next morning, I went to the local library and started digging into the building's history. Turns out, this wasn't just an ordinary apartment. Decades ago, it was part of a boarding house, and rumors said one tenant had vanished without a trace. The police never found him, and no one ever talked about it. I felt a chill run down my spine. The missing tenant was last seen living in the apartment directly below mine. Could those symbols have been connected to him? That evening, Luna started behaving even more strangely. She paced nervously, her fur on end. I heard faint noises, a whisper, maybe footsteps, but when I looked, no one was there. I wasn't imagining it. Something was wrong. I decided to set up a camera inside the storage room overnight. I wanted proof, or at least an explanation. Watching the footage the next day sent a shiver through me. Shadows moved in ways no human could explain. Luna appeared agitated on the screen, staring at something invisible to the eye. I contacted a local paranormal expert, skeptical but willing to help. He studied the carvings and told me they were protective wards, used historically to trap malevolent spirits or entities. The thought hit me hard. Maybe whatever happened to the missing tenant was connected to something dark, locked away in that storage room. We performed a cleansing ritual, candles, salt, ancient prayers. But that night, the apartment felt heavier. Luna wouldn't leave my side. The noises returned, louder this time. Doors creaked, the floorboards groaned. One night, I heard a scream. Not human, something deeper, more guttural. I ran to the storage room, heart in my throat. Luna was standing in front of a hidden panel in the back wall, one I hadn't seen before. It was slightly open, revealing a dark, hollow space. Inside, I found an old journal, The Missing Tenants. It told a terrifying tale of an entity haunting the building, feeding off fear, waiting to be freed. His last entries were frantic warnings, begging anyone who found the journal to seal the door and never let the creature out. I resealed the panel with help from the expert, and since then, the apartment has been quiet. Luna's calm again, her role as my silent guardian restored. Sometimes, I still wonder what might have happened if I hadn't followed Luna's warnings. Because sometimes, our pets see the things we can't. And sometimes, that's the only thing standing between us and the darkness. I've always been a skeptic when it came to superstition. Black cats crossing your path? Just an old wives' tale, I thought. But then, what happened over the past few months shook every belief I held. It started subtly. I live in a small town, quiet streets, familiar faces, the kind of place where everyone knows your name. I've never seen anything truly strange happen here, but one thing I began noticing was a black cat, always just lurking in the shadows. It wasn't like any regular neighborhood cat. This one appeared suddenly outside my window one chilly October evening. Its eyes glowed green, reflecting the porch light, but it didn't move away when I tried to approach. Instead, it just stared, calm and unwavering. At first, I thought it was just coincidence. Maybe the cat was a stray, looking for food or shelter. But then my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, mentioned seeing the same black cat outside his house, just the night before his wife fell seriously ill. Not long after, she passed away. It was eerie, but I told myself it was nothing. Still, the cat kept appearing around people who soon experienced something bad. Illnesses, accidents, sudden deaths. One by one, the cat seemed to be there just before tragedy struck. I decided to dig deeper. I started asking neighbors, friends, anyone who might have seen the black cat. What I found was unsettling. No one remembered the cat before a certain time. But since then, it had been sighted at multiple homes, always just before something horrible happened. One evening, as the wind howled outside, I sat at my kitchen table writing notes, trying to piece together what this could mean. The cat was perched outside my door again. I was drawn to its eerie stillness, as if it was waiting. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing strange noises outside. A faint scratching, almost like claws against the wood siding. When I looked out the window, the cat was gone, but I felt watched, uneasy. Days passed. My friend Jake told me he had seen the cat near his uncle's house. His uncle died unexpectedly the next morning. I realized I had to document everything carefully, so I made a journal, dates, times, locations of sightings, and the events that followed. The pattern was undeniable. But what was the cat? Was it a bad omen? A supernatural force? Or just a twisted coincidence? One night, I decided to follow it. I grabbed a flashlight and quietly stepped outside, heart pounding. The cat was sitting by the old abandoned mill on the edge of town. I followed it as it walked silently, leading me through the woods. I lost sight of it briefly, but then found it waiting by a rundown cabin I had never noticed before. The door creaked open. Inside was darkness. I hesitated, but something compelled me forward. As I entered, I saw strange symbols painted on the walls, shadows dancing in the flickering light of a dying fire. The cat was there, sitting calmly, staring at me. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I spun around, but no one was there. The cat let out a low growl. Then, from the darkness, a whisper, barely audible, brushed past my ear. I can't explain what it said, but it sounded like a warning. I left the cabin shaken. That night, I dreamt of the cat, glowing eyes and shadowy figures beckoning me to stay. I knew then that the black cat wasn't just a cat. It was something else, a harbinger, a watcher, maybe even a curse. I shared my story online, hoping others would come forward with similar experiences. Some did. Stories of black cats appearing before mysterious deaths, strange accidents, unexplained illnesses. Was this just fear? Or was there really something in the shadows watching us, waiting to mark the next victim? As for me, I never saw the black cat again. But sometimes, when the wind blows just right, I swear I hear a faint scratching at my window, and a pair of green eyes staring back at me. If you ever see a black cat lurking where it shouldn't be, beware. It might be more than just a stray. It might be the shadow of death itself.